The Venus flytrap is probably the most famous carnivorous plant because it looks less like a plant and more like a tiny mechanical trap that suddenly snaps shut. The edges of each leaf are lined with stiff spines, and the inner surface has sensitive trigger hairs. Usually, the trap has to be stimulated twice within a short period before it fully closes. That helps prevent the plant from wasting energy every time a raindrop, speck of dust, or random touch hits the leaf. It does not catch insects mainly for calories. What it really needs are nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, which are scarce in the poor wetlands where it grows. The key thing is not that the trap closes fast. It is that it does not close for no reason. The water wheel plant is basically an underwater version of the Venus flytrap, but far fewer people know about it. It has no roots and floats freely in the water. Its leaves grow in whorls, and each one carries a small snap trap that can close almost instantly when tiny aquatic animals touch it. Fast snap traps are already strange enough on land. Doing the same thing underwater feels even more extreme. The plant is also becoming increasingly rare in the wild, so what makes it special is not just that it can bite, but that this almost science fiction-looking design is now fragile enough to disappear from natural habitats. Sundews take a completely different approach. Instead of snapping shut, their leaves are covered in sticky glandular hairs that trap insects almost like syrup. In many species, the leaf will slowly curl around the prey afterward, bringing it into contact with even more digestive glands. The genus is enormous, ranging from tiny ground-hugging rosettes to species that grow as long, climbing stems. The thing people remember most is how the whole plant sparkles in sunlight. It looks beautiful, almost covered in dew, but those shining droplets are actually the trap. Rainbow plants also have glittering, sticky leaves, so they often remind people of sundews. Both catch insects with adhesive surfaces, but they are not closely related. That makes them a classic example of convergent evolution among carnivorous plants. Their most obvious feature is the long, narrow leaves covered almost completely in glandular hairs, giving the plant a kind of colorful haze from a distance. Some species in Australia and New Guinea grow in environments that recover quickly after fire, so instead of looking dark or sinister, they feel light, bright, and extremely good at taking advantage of short opportunities. Butterworts have yet another style. Their leaves usually form a flat rosette, and the surface looks almost as if it has been brushed with a thin layer of oil. They are especially good at catching tiny flying insects rather than large prey. Many species grow on rock faces, mossy ground, or other damp but nutrient-poor places. Their flowers can be delicate and ornamental, while the leaves look like someone simply laid down a circle of sticky paper. Some species even switch leaf types with the seasons, producing carnivorous leaves in the wet season. The interesting thing about butterworts is that at first glance they look like ordinary ornamentals. Only later do you realize the entire rosette has been hunting the whole time. Bladderworts may be the closest thing carnivorous plants have to black technology. Their traps are tiny bladders with little doors, almost like miniature vacuum chambers. The plant first lowers the pressure inside each bladder. Then, when a tiny aquatic animal or microorganism touches the trigger structures, the door opens almost instantly, sucking the prey and surrounding water inside before snapping shut again. The whole action happens incredibly fast, and often at a scale too small to notice with the naked eye. Even more surprising, bladderworts are the largest group of carnivorous plants by number of species. Some float in water, while others grow in wet soil. Corkscrew plants are even stranger. Their underground structures look like roots, but they are really more like twisted, branching trap tunnels. Inside are pathways that make it easy for microscopic soil organisms to move inward and difficult for them to escape. Many species do not even have true roots in the usual sense, which is unusual even among flowering plants. Most plants evolve better roots. These plants have almost rewritten the idea of what a root is supposed to do. If you want to know how far carnivorous plants can deviate from the normal plant blueprint, corkscrew plants are one of the best examples. Pitcher plants in the genus Nepenthes are probably the first image many people picture when they hear carnivorous plant. Their traps are not flowers, but modified leaves that form pitchers at the ends of tendrils. The rim often has nectar glands and an extremely slippery surface, so once prey falls inside, climbing back out can be very difficult. Nepenthes mainly occurs in tropical parts of the Old World, from Southeast Asia to Madagascar, and the variety of forms is enormous. Some pitchers are tiny and mainly catch ants or mosquitoes. Others are large enough to hold much bigger prey. Even more interesting, a few species no longer depend mainly on insects at all. Some collect droppings from tree shrews, while others provide roosting spaces for bats. At that point, the pitcher is no longer just an insect trap. It becomes a container built into an entire ecological relationship. Sarracenia pitcher plants are the North American version of the pitcher trap strategy. They also use deep tubular leaves, but they are not close relatives of tropical Nepenthes. Many species attract insects with bright colors, scent, and nectar. The inner walls often become more slippery farther down, so once an insect falls in, escaping gets harder and harder. Some pitchers collect rainwater, and the liquid inside can become home to bacteria, mosquito larvae, and other small organisms. This is especially obvious in the purple pitcher plant, where each pitcher functions not only as a trap, but almost like a permanently open miniature pond. The cobra lily looks less like an ordinary pitcher plant than almost anything else in the group. The end of each leaf swells and curves upward like the head of a raised snake, and the top contains translucent windows. Insects are attracted inside, but the light coming through those transparent areas confuses their sense of direction. They keep flying toward what looks like an exit and end up moving deeper into the trap. Cobra lilies often grow in cool environments with constantly flowing seepage water, which is very different from the usual image of carnivorous plants living somewhere hot, wet, and stagnant. Its strongest feature is probably not even the mechanism, it is the appearance. The plant looks like someone deliberately designed a monster character. Sun pitchers, or heliumphora, grow on the tops of South American table mountains in environments that are wet, cool, and extremely nutrient-poor. Their traps are usually more open than those of many other pitcher plants. Instead of having a true lid, they often carry a spoon-shaped nectar structure near the top. Mist, heavy rainfall, and barren sandstone plateaus give their habitat an almost alien look. What makes sun pitchers so memorable is that they show carnivorous plants do not have to live on the floor of a tropical rainforest. They can also grow on isolated highlands that look almost like another planet. The Albany pitcher plant, or cephalotus, is a perfect reminder that looking like Nepenthes does not mean being closely related to it. It occurs only in southwestern Australia. The plant is small and grows close to the ground, producing compact pitcher traps with distinctive tooth-like structures around the rim. The traps are extremely attractive, which has made the plant popular among collectors. But the more interesting point is that it independently evolved a trap that works in much the same way as several completely unrelated pitcher plants. Carnivorous plants are full of repeated inventions, and cephalotus is one of the classic examples. Carnivorous bromeliads are probably the group most likely to break people's expectations. When most people think of bromeliads, they think of pineapples or decorative tropical houseplants, not insect-eating species. But a few bromeliads form leaf cups that collect water. Insects fall in, decompose, and release nutrients that the plant can absorb. These plants may not have dramatic movement like a Venus flytrap, and they may not have obvious pitchers like Nepenthes, but that is exactly what makes them interesting. Carnivory is not one single plant design. It is a survival strategy that has appeared again and again in different forms. And with carnivorous bromeliads, the most surprising thing is that at first glance, you would never think they were carnivorous at all.